private message me and let me know. Love to have you on. Are we live yet, Eddie? I'm
What's
getting ready
up,
to go live
profitable
on
stylist?
YouTube.
Here
I
we
got to
go
run.
this
Bye.
week. We are talking about how to layer hair extensions. This has magically become a hot topic over the weekend, and all week this has been tracking. So we got to talk about it some more because I think there's a lot of opinions out there. A lot of those opinions are not matching up, and I think the whole purpose of what was originally trying to be shown and shared completely got missed somewhere in translation.
Boy, did it. Boy, did it. Yeah. I had this mannequin here. Let's see if I can move this. Tell me if you can see it well in there. I had this mannequin here, and the real point was that I have 3 rows of extensions. I don't know if you can kind of see them in there
Pull it a little over more to the right. There you go.
with a shaved head. So there's no hair in between there. And so I was comparing a way that I used to and still do extensions on rows, even if it's 2 rows, but this was 3. And I wanted to show how the layers would work as compared to how so many of you guys are putting extensions in now, all on one row. This is 4, maybe 5. I think it's 4 layers of extensions all pinned. It was one long one, and I went back and forth to put 4, and it's beautiful and it's thick. But this is the trend right now. People are putting all their extensions on one row, and we pay for an app that tells us what stylists are searching for on YouTube, asking certain questions. And one of the most common things asked right now is how to cut hair extensions on layers. So I started off with taking a section here and hold just a little bitty vertical section in the back kind of here, and I held it straight up in the air and said, do not cut layers like this, because this is what you'll get. It was chop, chop, you see the blonde, chop the brown, chop the blonde. I even started to try to blend it just a little bit with a razor back here just to kind of show that you can. But my main point was, do not cut layers like this, and people missed the point. They thought that you can't hold hair straight up for layers. Is it glaring too white behind me?
It's the lights though. It's
I think
not
I got
you.
them too
It's
bright.
your hot lights. Yeah.
Yeah, I just need to turn those lights down or have somebody come in here and help me do that. So I was just trying to show people. So look, this is going to be my next video. I'm trying to show people how if you have hair on every single square inch of the section, and it all comes down, and I haven't done it yet. It's all one length right now. But if you cut the hair straight up on top of the head, which I'm going to be doing in a video here soon, then it will layer nice and smoothly all the way through. Every angle off of natural fall till you get straight up to the top, even over exaggerating over the head, and then you cut hair, you're going to get layers. And I was completely amazed at the people who would say, well, everybody knows you can't hold hair at that angle to cut layers, or everybody knows a good 45-degree angle is the only way to get layers. And so I actually did a video. Did you mean this 45 or this 45?
Right.
Because
It
what's
gets
40?
complicated.
Yeah,
And
what's 45?
this is the thing that gets confused a lot. And unfortunately, cutting natural hair versus cutting hair extensions, we're pulling the angles in the same way, yes, and you're cutting it, just like you would be cutting it the same way, yes, but no, all at the same time. They're completely two different animals in the approach and in the way how it falls when it's naturally coming off your scalp versus how it's attached with a hair extension. The amount of bulk, the amount of density and weight in that section is completely different with hair extensions. So if you pull it in the same angle that you normally are used to pulling it in when you're doing a standard haircut, it's not going to lay right, because now you're getting that bulk of hair to fall and lay again in a bulk. And I think that's one of the issues that happens with long hair layering. It is a very, very, very common technique to pull it straight up at a 180-degree angle, straight up off the top of the head, cut it all straight across, nice and even, and let it fall and layer itself out naturally. Unfortunately, the topmost layer is going to fall and create a very heavy weight line, because that's where the majority of the bulk of the energy point of that layer, that's where that becomes on a 180. Now, on a 45 degree, there is an energy point on there as well too. It's softened, and that's why people are like, oh, well, that's why you got to use a 45. But
energy point, huh? I never heard that term.
I mean, now I'm starting to get technical over here. Look, because that's the fun. So the most fun I have when I'm teaching a haircut class.
You basically mean like a weight line or the heavy section?
No, where is everything coming? Where you're pulling all of that hair to one central point.
Mm-hmm.
That central point, that energy point, however you want to refer to it as, when you're pulling it all up to that one point, whether it's at a 45, whether it's at a 90, whether it's a 180, it's still all meeting up to one focal point. And what is happening right there? Because just because if I pull everything straight up, okay, here, the 45 that everybody's so talking about, the 45, right? This is your 45 degree angle. But you're focusing on the center of that 45. You're not focusing on the corners of that 45 degree angle at the bottom of it or at the top of it. You're focusing at the center of it. So even when that lays, after it lays, that energy point is in the center of where that's laying, not at the corners. And that's where the weight lines always show up. So then even after doing a 45 degree layer, you still got to go in and point cut and shred it and do something to it to blend it some more.
Right. Good point. Yeah.
And not everybody's got the same skill set. Not everybody's using the same tool. Not everybody's using the same comb. Not everybody's using the same body position. And body position, 9 times out of 10, is the complete difference of how good or bad that perfect angle is going to lay down and fall.
And then we talked a little bit about this on our Facebook Live a few minutes ago. John was saying geometry has everything to do with haircuts. And the problem, not necessarily the problem, but the challenge and the thing you have to know is that the head is curved, but it's not all curved the same, which gives you even more challenges. And you might say it's a ball, but it's not. On the sides of the head, it's pretty freaking flat, and then back here, it's really flat for most people. Some people, it's even the opposite. It's a ball and then it's a valley. It's sunken in. But you've got big, flat areas that will show hair differently. And on the top of the head, like they make this so perfectly round, but it is rare that somebody is round on the top. The top of the head is usually a little flatter right through this area and then rounds down, then rounds around. It rounds pretty good bit through the crown. But you've got curves and flats to worry about. And then, go ahead, and then I'm going to go to my next point.
And I'm going to add on that too. And then it depends on how many colics you have and where those colics are and where your natural fall comes from and your growth pattern. And then somebody like myself, I was a little active in my youth, a little more than I should have been. I got a big old crater on the top of my head because I got my skull bashed in. So I'm missing missing like a section of my skull, right? So now you got the divot in there. Some people, and I don't know what the right name for it, there's a medical proper term for it, but some people got the brain skull. Where the brain skull, where they got like the natural ridges in their scalp, like their skin.
Oh, is that what they call? I never heard that term before.
It's not it's really mean to call them. They look like like.
Oh, you're saying it looks like brains because it's all wrinkly.
It looks like a cornfield or a brain, But I said, I don't know what the proper medical term is.
No. I know what you're saying, and that matters more when you're cutting shorter hair. You see the guys that are still trying to do ball fades, but on the back of their head, bigger guys will have rolls in their.
Oh, and then there's that too, yeah.
As well. So then you're cutting around the skin, and it's going to affect the way the hair lays. When hair's longer, a lot more is forgiven. But the other thing I like to talk about is where hair is on a head. So people are always talking about hair being thicker in the back and thinner on the sides with no idea why. No idea why. Hair is thicker in the back because from the top of the head to right here, look how much hair you have to stack on top of each other. And then those clients, I know not all your clients have ears, but the ones with ears... I always say that in class, but I say it a little differently. I say the clients with ears are going to have less hair on the sides of their head than they do in the back. And every once in a while, somebody will say, well, don't they all have ears. That's my point. No matter what, people have thinner hair on the sides than they do in the back. No matter what. Because ears take up a big section of where hair would normally be if it was the back of the head. So on the side of the head, you've got less hair from the top to here. So no matter what, you're going to have less hair here. And then what else happens? You might part the hair, right? You might part the hair way over on this, and all that hair goes the other way. So from the middle, if the hair was parted in the middle, it'd be equal on both sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if the hair is parted over here and all this hair goes that way, well, we just stole some hair. The ear stole some hair from this side. The parts stole some hair from this side. Then if we decide to frame the face a little bit, we stole a little bit more hair for the sake of layers or movement or whatever you want to call it, to give some movement in the front, made the side a little thinner. God forbid we do bangs, because now we just stole a whole section of hair off the front to move towards the front that isn't on the side. So most people suffer on the sides with the amount of hair that they would like. So that's one of the reasons I say hair extensions. How much hair, what's the least amount of hair you can buy in the extension line that you sell? And with she hair and on stage hair, she hair, you can buy 10 strands. Like that is 2 of each color on that head, but they each come in a pack of 10. So if you're doing a keratin bond and you're buying it from she hair, you can literally put 5 strands on one side, 5 strands on the other side, and thicken the sides of somebody's head. If you're doing on stage hair, or a lot of companies come 25 strands per pack, there's nothing wrong with putting 12 or 13 on each side also, or buying that pack and just using half of it on one person, half on another. The neat thing about thickening the sides of somebody's head is you don't even have to match the color. Because if you're not going past the length of their hair, there's no line of where the color has to blend. You just have to be close, or maybe you purposely go a little blonder or a little darker, a little highlight, a little low light, add a little dimension, cut it to the same length, and it just becomes an extra color on the side and thickness or fullness. So they're getting 2 benefits from a little extra hair on the sides. That I get pretty passionate about because it's so real, true, and a way to make a lot of extra money by just doing this once or twice a day throughout the week. You do this once or twice a day, put 10 strands on 2 people per day over 5 days. Oh God, here comes the math guy. I should have asked him, is my volume not working or pixelated? Oh, maybe let me just make sure this is plugged in really good.
Yeah, so your camera was doing crazy stuff.
800. Yeah, so if you do 2 per day, 20 strands per day, and you work 5 days a week, what's that? 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 strands?
100 strands.
A lot of people put 100 strands in it as a full head. So you can get a full head of extensions in each week just doing it twice a day on 2 people at an extra $100 service. I'm going to unplug my internet and replug it. I don't know if this is going to be a good...
That's probably going to disconnect you.
I got the Wi-Fi.
You got the Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love how you always make fun
better?
of the way I say things, and then all of a sudden you come up with, like, you purposely goof words. And here's me. You are
my son too. We do it for fun. I hope you're not learning English from us.
I am, because here's me like desperately trying to say words, you know, like trying to enunciate properly. And then here's you. You're like, no, I thought I got the big word wrong. You're telling me I got the simple word wrong. You know?
Nope, you got the, I forgot. Figure. You said figure instead of figure. So what, is my screen better now?
It looks better for now. I think maybe it's just your face. I don't know.
That was going to be a great little clip to pull out and use as a short video too, and not if it's pixelated. Should we rewind and repeat?
No, the audio is good, and that's really the main thing that really matters more than anything else is the audio. So yeah, so then all right, so then what really is the issue when you're doing those kind of layers? What really is the issue? Is it the angle? Is it the tool? Is it a combination of both? And I want to throw body positioning in there, because I always think body positioning is the third part to proper layering.
Your body positioning or the client's?
I think both. I will say both. I'll argue both. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because the angle at which you're taking, You really, what do you got? You got zero. You've got your zero. You got your 45. You got your straight 90. And
You
then you
know,
got straight off the top of the head. But then you have that other 45 that everybody's
you have
talking.
everything in between also.
But those are the
Technically.
main, but those are the main basic
True.
angles. And that like 90% of all layering, every time I get a new client come to the salon, I'll pull her hair in one of those 5 positions
I
or
do
one of
the
those
same
4
thing.
positions. And
Let's
I can
see.
immediately tell the skill set of who was the prior stylist who cut this woman's hair
Or at least the angle that they cut it at last.
to follow the angles, to follow the
Right.
layers.
And you know, this is one of the things I've always taught in my classes is after you cut, I say pick an angle a little different than the usual angles. When my stylists are learning from me, I'll say, listen, straight up is the easiest, fast, quick layers or 45, but I would go somewhere in between to be unique. So when your client gets used to your haircutting style that is a little different than every other salon out there, most stylists aren't like you and I. They can't pull the hair up and try to figure out what angle. I can pull it up in a few sections and completely reproduce the haircut with a few simple questions. When did you get your hair cut last? 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 2 months. I know how fast hair grows roughly, and then I can look at her and know her hair grows thick and coarse, a little faster than average, fine and thin, a little slower. So within a couple of, a couple of eighths of an inch, 16ths of an inch, I can have an idea of what angles her hair was cut in, how much was cut off, and I can reproduce a haircut with a few questions. Do you like what you had before? You want to do it again? Yes. I want to just tweak a little here or there. Great. So as I tweak, I change the angles a little bit because I want to be unique and creative. And then almost always I want to put some texturizing, some point cutting, that's where the creativity comes in, and then nobody can copy your haircut. It takes a very skilled hairdresser to see where the thinning, the texturizing, the point cutting is. And that is where, that to me is my signature, is texturizing shears. Nobody's, even I can't copy
I
it.
love texturizing shears, you know, and I love
Right.
texturizing
Even I
shears.
can't copy it, but at least I have a pattern and I know roughly how I do it every time.
Well, and then I don't think you should copy precisely every single time. I'm a firm believer of you should change the look, even if it's a half, like in hair color, I change my formula by a half a level every 3rd application, just by default.
You just hit on 2 of the most popular TikToks right now. One is the lady takes the cape off the client and her legs are crossed, and she, it's not her voice actually, it's those voiceover kind of things, and she looks, points at the legs crossed, and she's like, the whole time, like, because we like, not me, but as a whole, we like to blame all kind of other things for our problems in the hair world.
That's why it came off. That's why you're sitting there trying to level it off. You're measuring, and yeah.
If my haircut's uneven, it's because you had your legs crossed under that cape, and you know better than that. And then the other one, God, you just hit on it, and I totally forgot it. You said something about changing. Oh, doing the same thing. One of the I think this was a Facebook story. They talking about when one of the worst things to hear from a client is, I want the exact same thing I had last time. And the hairdresser was like, I have no idea. And she said, what equals, I want the same thing I had equals. And then they put this long math formula up, like, no clue. Too many hairdressers don't write down their color formulas. They can't remember what cut they did last time. A few little notes would help. I was pretty good at remembering what I did the last time on almost every client, but most of us are a creative bunch. We don't even want to do the same thing again.
But let me tell you, even if, because you know me, I love the technicality of things. So I will sit there and take notes, and I'll even say, this is the mood she was in. This is kind of what we was talking about last time. These are the recommendations. Yeah, I don't have my memory. I got the memory of a goldfish. I can't remember. Look, I was talking to the salon this morning and they're telling me, you're 9 o'clock on Saturday. And I'm like, oh, is that the one that works at this place? No. Is that the one that has the kids? No. Is that the one? And like, no, 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 no. So finally I'm like, all right, is she 4 chocolate, 5 chocolate base color? And then the highlight, and they're like, yeah, that's the one. I'm like, all right, see, then now I know them by formulas. I don't know them by their life. I can't keep it all straight. So anyways, the point is, I write all of that down because even that day, the last time when they were in, what was the weather outside? What was the water? How did she wash her hair for the next 6 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever amount of time? How often did she wash it, blow dry it, style it, flat iron it, blah, blah, blah. There's a billion things that go in. It's impossible. It's impossible to recreate the same identical thing like you did last time. What we're going for is consistency, to try to make it look as close as possible, right? And that's
Right.
the whole thing. And that's why pictures are so important nowadays, and getting that one perfect picture is so important because you're living on forever with that picture. And then everybody's always trying to recreate that picture.
So that brings a couple of points up. I don't want to go too deep into this other one, but on our Facebook Live a little while ago, you said something about mentors. I think mentors are going to be a lot different these days, and the hands-on classes aren't filling up as much because of stuff like this. People are learning right now, and some people think this is enough. They heard it, they can reproduce it, so they don't go to as many hands-on. And I'm thankful for our new world. I think there is a lot of education out there. I know when I got to fix something on my car, my house, my hot water heater, I go to YouTube. I don't go to a class. I do try there, and I might mess up, but even with a couple of mess ups, usually the expense is less than hiring somebody, usually. But there are some lines, I guess I would draw, some technical lines, like with hair. You're affecting somebody's life for a little longer period of time. So sure, you can learn some things on YouTube. You get a friend that'll let you try anything and screw it up and maybe get it right. But there's still something to be said about hands-on. Personally, I like it, but it's an opinion thing. It's completely an opinion thing. So whether you get your education hands-on or not is totally up to you. And I had another point that I'll remember after you talk.
The thing with hands-on, I love you, man. The thing with the hands-on training, what you don't capture from the video, from watching a video, is the body positioning. What you don't capture from a video is the feeling of what you're looking for, how it's supposed to feel when you're holding it up in that angle. So you're trying to mimic what you're seeing, and then it really comes down to your ability. Now, some people are really good because artistically or creatively they can do it. Some people are equally just as good because they're very technical and they're savvy about it. They're good with their hands. But
Right.
there are some people who are so artsy and so creative that visually just seeing it does not compute, does not translate. They get that 404 error, So they
That
need
what? That what?
It's an internet joke. 404 error does not compute.
Oh, we're computer nerds.
It's for computer nerds, yeah.
Okay. I've
Then,
never heard of it.
degenerates of Reddit, rejoice. I am a degenerate myself. So it's, but that's the whole thing. It's like my hands-on classes, they are filling up. And that is one of the main things that people are saying is there's not enough hands-on classes out there. And it's weird because when there are a lot of offerings, they don't fill up because everyone's like, oh, there's so many of them available. I'll just get the next one. And then all of a sudden it's time for that next one. But now the companies have given up on doing them because not enough people are signing up for them. And it's just as easy to hop on YouTube.
Well, between the internet and COVID, it kind of threw a big change in the world.
It did.
So things are still normalizing, and I think it will get more normal. Well, Zoom helped out too, where not just Zoom, but a lot of the live training. So now it's not just internet based while you're watching, but you can get corrected a little. Because I had a guy in Australia teach me how to put the beaded topper on a little better a couple of months ago, and he was telling me, no, not like that. And I'm thinking, okay, but there's nobody here to help me. And he goes, watch this video, watch this. I'm going to do it again for you. And then, so there is some level, and I don't know if I'm being a little full of myself here, but it was a certain level of expertise in this particular thing already. So tweaking it a little wasn't as difficult. I don't know if I could have learned that from scratch. Like, I don't know if I could have learned over the internet the first time ever putting a beaded topper on if I'd never pulled a bead through any holes and squeezed it. That would have been a little more challenging, maybe. So I don't know. There's so many different levels. I don't like to say one is right or wrong. I'm just throwing my opinion
No,
out
I'm
there.
not saying it like that. What I am going to say is simply this, because I think all levels of education in all of its forms has a place. For the advanced person, a video becomes a user guide. For a new person, it's a starting point. It puts things into perspective. And for everybody in between, it helps them on their journey to get along the way. Now, I'm not a big sports guy. I know you're not a big sports guy. Is there any particular sports person that you can name that just stands out, that's famous?
Sure.
Okay, name me one.
Oh my goodness, Drew Brees. I'm
Okay.
from the New Orleans area, Saints quarterback. Not
Okay.
anymore, but was.
So now, Drew Brees, he practiced 40 hours a week for a 4-hour game.
How do you know?
He that's and because this example plugs into every single thing universally across the
Okay.
board.
I
And
see
I
what you're
use
saying.
it. No, that's what I learned this from Darren, and I use it in my classes on all my hands-on classes. The point is this: he practiced 40 hours a week for a 4-hour game, and that 4-hour game is the only thing that mattered. And during that time, he had a coach. Even though he practiced by himself, he still met with a coach for, out of that 40 hours a week, he met with the coach maybe, I don't know, 10 hours of that 40 hours,
Yeah.
you know, 1 hour a day. He had a coach just to refine and improve, just like your coach from Australia, right? Just like how you and I bounce ideas off of each other. When you get
Mm-hmm.
to a certain level, you need to have a comrade or a companion or um, a friend, you
Accountability.
know,
Accountability partner.
accountability partner, right? To yeah, to keep you in check. Otherwise, how are you going to rise up? How are you going to get to that next level? So this is where I think videos are really good. I think hands-on are better because now you're getting, I mean, I can tell you how many times in an extensions class, just simply turning somebody's wrist that much and they're like, "Oh, it's the world of difference." And you can't explain that over a video. Just like when you're cutting hair, I call it Pac-Manning. They sit there and they're chopping away at it like they're chopping at a tree, right? Yeah, wah 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 wah. Just freaking cut it clean, one shot, man. You know,
or two, but not five or
and not
six.
five. And then don't cut over your knuckle. You know, just you got to stay within this much of your finger. But all of those things, all of those things matter. And talking about the angles that you were talking about and talking about the body positioning, this is all the things what I'm saying. This is what matters. What happens? So to me, cutting it at 0 at natural fall and cutting it at 180, I think it creates the same weight line. I think it just moves. I think it just shifts the weight lines in different positions.
What?
Yeah, that's that haircut that you did. You pulled it up straight up 180, and it created a weight line right there, and then it retained the original weight line at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So you're creating two different weight lines, right? I think the same thing at that 45, whether it's this 45 or whether it's that 45, it's the same weight line. You're going to run into the same problem in two different ways. And then at a 90, straight out at a 90 degree,
just moves the weight lines.
you're just shifting the weight line. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the only saving grace to any and all of that is the ability for the stylist, for the client, how well they can style their hair, and how much density or lack of density you have in that section is how much it's going to show or how much you're going to be passable, in my opinion.
So I want to hear your opinion on this one. If you've got this big chunk of extensions all on this one layer like this one, but you do have some hair coming out of up here, right? And it's hanging down in, I don't know, let's say halfway mark. And then you've got hair underneath that's hanging to the halfway mark. Do you have a suggestion or a technique that you could layer this hair? So it would look like layered?
Now, are you so the length of that extension section, that right there, right? Are you trying to retain that length and blend it in with the shorter naturals, or are you
I
trying
think
to blend it all together?
no, I think it's extensions. I think people are putting extensions in like this commonly, and they're
Hmm.
trying to figure out how to get it to look like layers
Okay. And that's
all the way up.
unfortunately, this is where I'm going to start an argument because I think that's dumb. You're putting all your energy into one point and you
I
are
know, but
bulking up the hair.
let's try to be creative.
No,
That is
I'm not being negative. I'm explaining the
no.
challenge. I'm explaining the challenge for people to fully understand and appreciate. I'm not
Well,
against doing it.
let's do the solution instead.
The solution
I
is
I
this.
think people know that we don't like this, but can you layer? Yes or
You
no,
can.
and then
Yes, you
how?
can.
Yeah,
Yes, you can. Very painfully. You got to
right,
take the longest lower layer, which would be the natural hair underneath that section. That's where you can't have the extensions fall at that point. Whatever that shortest point is, the extensions cannot fall up to that point. They have to be above that point. And then wherever the top natural hair is above that section, that's your starting guide. The extensions cannot be any shorter than that.
that's
So
good.
the
That's a
ex-
good place to start. Right.
that's a good place to start. The section of that extension has to live somewhere in between that. Now, here is where the difficulty comes. If you're trying to use even the perfect 45 magical degree angle that everybody knows about, that is a wrong way of doing it, because at a 45-degree angle all you're doing is just shifting up all the weight in between those two focal points. What you need
Right.
to do is you need to what did you call that technique, jarking? you,
Yep.
you you need to walk. You need to start from the shortest point and you need to walk that chunk of hair extension. You need to walk that down and end right above where the lower natural section is. And then I would even pull that up at a 45, fan all that hair out, and point cut deep. I hate when people tell me they're point cutting and they're sitting there going like this and they're just snipping away at it and it just freaking looks
Right.
like a messy
Right. This
straight line,
right.
you know?
So this would be one length, and some people when they turn their angle like this and they cut across, they call it point cutting. To me, point cutting is when
You
you're
gotta go
really
deep. Yeah.
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 So
And
let's talk
everyone's
about
like,
the
oh, I
layers.
want to retain the length. You can't retain length in this section, in this
Let me move
scenario.
this microphone. Let's talk about these layers for just a second. The most challenging part is I would get little vertical sections like this, and you've got to be careful. The underneath hair needs to stay underneath and be
Underneath.
the length. So when you comb it, when you stick the comb into the side like this, your goal is to have the top hair on the top and the bottom hair on the bottom. If you comb it out some kind of way and get it in your fingers like this and then turn it sideways, well, you're not really putting
Sa-
layers over the top.
Save your finger like that for a second, Bernard. Look at what's happening. All the energy, all the weight line from the underneath section, and you're pulling it out. So you've twisted it, right?
Right.
And I wish I
Because
could draw on
normally
camera right now. But by your knuckle, okay, the hair by your knuckle is it's the hair underneath. And the hair by your fingertip is the hair from up top. When you cut that angle and then you let it drop, that's why you end up with that weird, heavy weight line like that. Because how you're twisting that hair, this is the most common problem that happens. And because it's all focused in that one block energy, point section on the head, it can't fan itself out to naturally layer itself out.
So even if you took a little bigger section, I'm gonna grab a bigger section here. My biggest my biggest goal would be to try to comb straight in from the side and have the top hair on top, the bottom hair on the bottom. And if you wanted to get technical and not cut your bottom hair, I think maybe you take that bottom weft out completely if you can. If you can part it out and have it laying down where it doesn't even get cut. That would be the safest thing. That way you don't take your length, because technically when you're doing this, when you're getting all the way out, can you see this on the camera all the way out here?
Not all the
Technically,
way out there. You need to shift it over a little more.
you don't want to touch this bottom section because that's your length, but you want to cut all the stuff on
All of
top.
that above it.
You want to cut basically you're trying to get a line from here to here, but it's such a long, so you're having to go over the top, and you're having to cut little bitty hairs or little almost chunk cutting all the way through. And then you got to grab a new vertical section. And I'm just elevating a little bit, not even a true 45, maybe a little lower. 45 would be fine. But the goal is to try to get the hair to flare out in your fingers like this, because the more it's flared, the less mistakes you're going to make, because you've got more room to cut through it. Whereas when you've got it all chunked together like that, you can go through it pretty quickly and cause some short sections. So it just becomes more difficult. But you're doing the same thing when you're on this blonde hair over here, if I can turn it around. Now, on the blonde hair, I've got no room. On the blonde hair, I've got, can you see oh, shoot. Let me show you it like this. We've got three.
You got 3 sections.
Rows,
Okay.
Three rows of extensions. And I did a blonde, a brown, and then another blonde so people could see. And now, as I grab anywhere on here, I'm going to just grab a section here. I'll part it, grab another little section. And when I pull, I'm really going to have to move this over so you guys
have to pull that
see.
back, yeah.
I wasn't planning on doing this in here, but can you still hear me fine?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I pull this vertical section out, you can see there's 3 different sections of hair. And so now I'm cutting, like I was saying before, I'm just doing the little cut. So now I'm taking the client's hair. Where does the client's hair fall over the top? Like you said, if the client's hair falls to right there, that's where I start the layers, is right there cutting through, and I'll get through the blonde eventually. So I'm layering the blonde through to here. Then I'm layering the brown through to here.
Oh, but time out. You're layering the natural hair that's left in between that blonde and brown section as well, too. If it's reaching.
If it's long enough.
If it's long enough, you do need to cut, because a lot of stylists get scared to touch the natural hair. And this is one of the things I'm always arguing with people about as well, too, is the natural length of the client's hair is no longer equal to the length. The hair extensions become equal to the length, or the hair underneath the bottom layer of the hair extensions become equal to the new length of the hair now. So that style pre-extensions, maybe it looked good and maybe it worked and that's fine. But now post-extensions, the extensions are now part of the entire style, and you need to adjust. You need to be willing, and the client has to be willing to lose some of their natural hair for the sake of making it look right with the extensions put in.
Yeah, I agree with that. And when you said they have to agree to let some of their hair be cut, I'd like to take this a step further in 2 areas. One, before the extensions ever go in. So some people have 2.
Oh, real quick, before you go into that, just real quick, because that's going to take us to a whole nother thing. The other thing I was going to say is, no, because this is also equally important. The 3 sections that you had pulled out, the blonde, the brown in the middle, and then the blonde underneath, right?
Yep.
There was a little bit of space in between, because that's due to how the extensions are positioned on the head, which is fine. That's normal. When you're layering, when you're going through that top section, after you get through, let's say there's no natural hair in there, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
When you get through that top section, you can't have that top section perfectly, that angle cannot perfectly connect to the middle brown section. That top blonde ends here. The brown has to start here. They can't be perfectly in line with each other. That's how you end up with another weight line. You have to pretend there was client's hair in between those 2 sections and continue that angle going all the way across, all the way through. That's another thing that happens, is that's like, oh, they only see those 3 sections separated. They pinch it all up together into one center point. They cut it, it drops. Then they end up with those with those staircase, with those weight lines
I
again.
wish I could say I was born knowing all of this, because that's how it sounds now on the interweb. But the truth is, I've done all these mistakes and screwed all
Oh,
these real people's heads up.
how many times we say the best way to learn is to goof and not be negative about it. You got to be, I say it all the time. I am so excited when I make a mistake because now it's a learning.
I
Oh my
wasn't,
God. I
but I
discover so many
remember.
things.
I still remember this girl came in, beautiful girl, big, thick brown hair, but it was like right above her shoulders, real thick bob. I want extensions. Great. I'm just thinking I'm going to be rich today. I'm young. I need the money. And I just put, it didn't matter how many rows or how much hair I put in, you could still see this thick, solid weight line. And I just couldn't understand why she was so mad. I'm like, girl, that's extensions. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
the
right.
best around here. I'm the best around here, which I kind of was, but I was still bad. It's just there was nobody better than me around here because it was like 15, oh man, 19, 20 years ago is when I was kind of first getting started in it. And I just couldn't figure out why I couldn't get rid of this solid line no matter how much I layered now. Well, her hair was buried so deep into so much extensions, it was hard to get rid of her weight line after the extensions went in. So I never made that mistake again because I would do a few girls who would have a little past the shoulders, all broken up, frayed at the end, look like they need a haircut, and it would blend so well. Then I'd have the clients that I would say, oh, good, her hair's all broken up at the ends. This is going to blend perfect when I put her extensions in. Then she goes to her friend and gets a trim to make her hair look better before the extensions. And she comes in and I'm still not smart enough. I just go ahead and put the extensions in anyway. And there's a line in there that I can't get rid of again. And I'm thinking, now when I do a consultation, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna be on stage in Nebraska in a few weeks, and they sent me a picture of the model. And the first thing I told the girl putting the show together is, tell her not to get her hair trimmed between now and then, because her hair is perfect for extensions, and those ends are gonna blend perfectly without me having to do much work. Don't make it solid and look better.
It's the only time split ends are acceptable.
Right. The more destroyed and wretched those ends are, the better. So I actually talk to people like, hey, can I listen, to put extensions in, the way they're going to look best is if I take that solid line away. And here's another pet peeve of mine. These are texturizing shears, but if you cut straight across, it still makes a line. It's just a dotted line. So I say point cut with texturizing shears. You're adding texture in a texture technique. Texture on top of texture is I want to say some old-fashioned words like the bomb. I mean, it is definitely, I mean, it's definitely the best way I've found. Some people say, why not a razor? I'm just saying, I think I get more control with texturizing shears at about a 45-degree angle or even deeper all the way across those ends.
However you need to get it done is what it comes down to.
And if they have layers, I need to pick it up and texturize those, pull it straight out to the back of the head or 40 and texturize those layers because they're a bit, especially on coarser, thicker hair, it's a bit of a weight line and a layered line instead of a solid line. So getting those ends to be more soft, I call it the cut melt of the hair world. Like people have color melting, you can cut melt also by texturizing the end. So then it'll cut melt by cutting instead of melt by color into the extension hair. Sure. So if you get rid of solid lines before you ever put extensions in, you have solved a whole lot of problems right there. The color will blend better and the cut will blend better. Then if you screw up on the haircut, it doesn't show as much. So then after that, when you put the extensions in, the part that people just don't realize is that the biggest problem now is the hair above the extensions. The hair that falls on top, all of this hair, boom, that's the line you see. And so people are trying to figure out where the line is. They're cutting it all in this area here. I say separate the hair, find the top extension, pick everything up that is above the extensions, hold it up in the air. Just hold it up in the air and then look at this. And if you hold it up and you don't see any lines, the line is in your hand. That's a trick I figured out a long time ago, was that most of the problems were in the hair above the extensions. So if I pick it all up and look at where the real heavy weight lines on the ends are, then I can get rid of them again with texturizing shears. So I will go in there and pick up that top section and get rid of. And when I pick that section up, it's either at the bottom or the top. And it depends on if it's more layered or more one length. If it's a one length falling over the top of it, the problem is going to be in the top section. If it's layered, it's going to be in the bottom section.
Another thing I'll add on, I agree with what you're saying, and I'll add on one more thing to that too. The occipital bone is the key placement positioning for the wefts, if we're doing wefts. Actually, if we're doing anything, really.
I'm still trying to find that bone.
Well, you're still trying to find it. You know, that is the furthest protrusion on the back of somebody's head. Yeah. Okay. And when a lot of people will put the extensions placement starting underneath the occipital bone where it protrudes out the furthest, they'll put it underneath. And that's where the dip, or that's where the big flatness in the back of somebody's head hits, which means all of that hair from the top and then all of that hair in your crown, which is the area above the protrusion in the back of your head, is all collecting right there. Now that's falling really heavy on the back of your head. So if you put the extensions right through the middle of it, or if you can place it and position it right above it, inside of the crown, you are really going to separate all that hair at the top of the head. So when it lays back down, you're literally cutting your work in half in having to blend, the amount of blending work that you're having to do.
Right. Done.
Look, it is that simple. It is that much. If you're Sassoon trained, you understand there's only 4 different angles, and it's how we combine all those angles together. If you're not Sassoon trained and you're in this new, techniques and have newer versions of it, you need to understand that they were all born. Sassoon commercialized everything, and he standardized everything, and it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. There is no right way. Well, there is the right way to do it. There's a lot of wrong ways to do something, and you can hide a lot of the wrong ways to do it, right? Now, yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about our creativity and our technicality and how you combine what you're combining in between all of that. So with all of that said, keep all of that in mind, all right? And when you're seeing something, take a look at it and use it as an inspirational moment to discover it's either going to reinforce what you're doing, it's either going to go completely against everything you know, or it's going to give you an aha moment where you were struggling somewhere in between and you were just trying to figure something out and you were so close, kind of like what you were describing earlier, you just couldn't never figure out why their natural hair became a weight line in the middle of the extensions. Use all those 3 examples as an opportunity to learn something and discover something. And if it's pissing you off that hard that you need to argue about it, then that means it's going against everything you know. So then you need to reevaluate, why do you know everything you know? Is it for a good reason, for a bad reason, or is it for a learning reason, or for a doubling down reason? Either way, stay open-minded about it. And then on the flip side of that, if it's an aha moment, reevaluate yourself and your position and see what is happening and why are you having that aha moment. And if it's reinforcing everything you know, reevaluate it again. Are you becoming complacent, or do you need to push yourself? Maybe you're ready for the next level and you need to put yourself out of that comfort zone and into, an uncomfortable way of learning something new so you can get to that next level. Either way, all the way around, I appreciate everybody. We just hit 10,000 subscribers. I was just telling you, 2 days ago, we were at 7,000. So, the viewership is growing.
Are you going to beg people to subscribe again?
And that's the beauty of it. I've never asked once. Hit the unsubscribe twice. I don't care.
Oh my God.
Okay? I don't care. Like, do whatever you want. There's enough people, if you're doing what you're doing correctly, or if you're doing what you're doing in a way that you believe that it's correct, right? There is enough people out there that you're going to attract people that are going to want to learn. There's enough people that are going to hate you, that they're going to want to follow you to make sure that they still hate you. Like you're gonna grow. You're gonna become
Hey,
profitable.
listen, when you say hit the subscribe button twice, that's subscribe, unsubscribe. So what we really want people to do is just to test us out. Press subscribe. If you don't get everything you want in the next 3 minutes, then you hit the unsubscribe button twice, because that's secretly unsubscribe, resubscribe.
I don't know. That's the whole point. I don't
Goodbye.
know how it works. I don't
I
care.
gotta go.
Thank you for watching. That's all
Thank
I
you for watching.
appreciate.